Phantom vessels have been spotted by mariners since humankind began traversing bodies of water. I wanted to open this episode with some thoughts on what may be a plausible explanation for some sightings. Note that I chose my words carefully, with the use of may and some. The purpose of this discussion is not to dismiss witnesses to this phenomena, but to help the listener establish a sense of what may have occurred to cause some sightings. I myself have experienced instances of what are no doubt in my mind paranormal phenomena. However, as someone with a background in applied sciences, it is in my very nature to search for answers if they exist. A plausible explanation for some ghost ship sightings is a fata morgana, which is a complex form of a superior mirage. The term fata morgana is the Italian translation of Morgan the Fairy, or Morgan le Fay of Arthurian legend. The optical phenomena occurs because rays of light bend when they pass through air layers of different temperatures in a steep thermal inversion where an atmospheric duct has formed. In calm weather, a layer of significantly warmer air may rest over colder, denser air, forming an atmospheric duct that acts like a refracting lens, producing a series of both inverted and erect images. Fata Morgana mirages can significantly distort the object or objects on which they are based, often such that the object is completely unrecognizable or may appear to be ghostly. A Fata Morgana is most commonly seen in polar regions, especially over large sheets of ice that have a uniform low temperature. It may, however, be observed in almost any area. In polar regions, the Fata Morgana phenomena is observed on relatively cold days. However, in deserts, over oceans, and over lakes, a Fata Morgana may be observed on hot days. On March 4, 2021, BBC News reported images of what appeared to be a hovering ship captured as a result of this particular optical illusion off the coast of England. David Morris took the photo of a ship near Falmouth, Cornwall. BBC meteorologist David Brain said the superior mirage occurred because of special atmospheric conditions that bend light. He said the illusion is common in the Arctic but can appear very rarely in the UK during winter. Mr. Brain said superior mirages occur because of the weather condition known as a temperature inversion, where cold air lies close to the sea with warmer air above it. Since cold air is denser than warm air, it bends the light towards the eyes of someone standing on the ground or on the coast, changing how a distant object appears. Superior mirages can produce a few different types of images. Here, a distant ship appears to float high above its actual position, but sometimes an object below the horizon can become visible. The Fata Morgana may explain some instances or deepen the mystery of others because there is no plausible explanation. Let us move on to our reading with this information in hand, and more importantly, an open mind. Legends and reports of ghostly ships are universal. Most commonly, they are linked to disasters and shipwrecks. Phantom ships usually appear at the scene of the disaster and may reenact their wrecks, especially on stormy nights. Numerous phantom ship stories come from the British Isles. Ghost ships continue to be reported in modern times, especially off the Atlantic coast. The most haunted area, however, lies on the opposite coast facing the English Channel. The Goodwin Sands about 5 miles off Deal in Kent. According to legend, this dangerous sandbank was once the island of Lomea, which was flooded and drowned in the 11th century when the Earl of Goodwin neglected to maintain the sea walls. There is no evidence that such an island ever existed, yet the phantom bells of its drowned churches are reported to toll beneath the sea. Legend also has it that some 50,000 people have lost their lives in shipwrecks on the sandbank. Their phantom ships still ply the waters. The most famous of the Goodwin Sands ghosts is the three-masted schooner Lady Levibond, which was bound for Oporto when it was wrecked on February 13, 1748. All aboard were drowned. The voyage was considered to be most unlucky from the start, for the captain's bride Annetta was on board. In the superstitions of sailings, it is bad luck to take a woman to sea. The mate was said to have been a rival for the lady's affections, and in one story, it holds that he murdered the helmsman and deliberately wrecked the ship for revenge. Every 50 years on February 13th, the Lady Levibond is seen running aground on the sands. On its first appearance in 1798, the crew of at least 2 ships reported seeing it. The phantom was so real that the master of the coaster Edenbridge thought his ship nearly collided with it. In 1848, the phantom again appeared so real that Deal seamen thought a wreck had actually occurred and set out in lifeboats to rescue survivors. None were found, nor were any traces of a wrecked ship. The Lady Levibond appeared again in 1898 and 1948 and is due in 1998 and 2048. Another Goodwin Sands victim is the SS Violet, a paddle steamer which ran aground crossing the channel in a snowstorm more than 100 years ago. Everyone on board was killed. Curiously, the wreck was reenacted at the start of World War II and was witnessed by the lookout at the East Goodwin Lighthouse. A lifeboat was sent out to investigate, but nothing was found. On the Atlantic coast, mysterious tall-masted sailing ships are seen floating offshore before they vanish into the mist. Many are unknown. According to one Cornwall legend, a ship was once seen on a moonlit night sailing straight onshore between Land's End and Penzance. Just as it seemed the ship would wreck itself, it lifted up out of the water, sailed through the air over land, and vanished. The Cape of Good Hope, the treacherous southernmost tip of South America, is another oft-haunted site. This location is known for sightings of the infamous Flying Dutchman, a phantom ship of legend involving a rash oath or punishment for sins or evil. It is the best known of phantom ship legends. The Flying Dutchman legend has various versions. In the Dutch version, the captain named Van Straten was a stubborn man who vowed to sail around the Cape of Storms, now known as the Cape of Good Hope, in bad weather. The ship was lost, and as a result, the ship and its crew of dead men and the dead captain are condemned to sail the spot forever. Their phantom vessel reportedly can be seen at the Cape in stormy weather and is an omen of disaster. In the German version of the legend, the captain is known as von Falkenberg and he sails in the North Sea. In this tale, the devil visited periodically and engaged the captain in a game of dice on deck, playing for the captain's soul. The captain lost the game and his soul and became one of the phantom condemned. In a version published in a British magazine in 1821, the ship was sailing around the Cape of Good Hope when a storm arose, and the crew begged the captain to head for safe harbor. He refused and taunted them for their fear. As the storm grew worse, he shook his fist and challenged God to sink the ship. Instantly, an apparition appeared on the deck, but the belligerent captain ordered it away lest he shoot at it. When the apparition did not leave, he drew out his pistol and fired at it, but the gun exploded in his hand. The apparition then cursed him to sail forever, always tormenting his crew. Anyone who sighted the doomed ship would also have misfortune. There are still other variations of the legend. In one, the ship was condemned to eternal wanderings because of cruelty on the part of the captain. In another, a goddess appeared on the deck one day and was treated sacrilegiously by the captain. In revenge, she condemned the ship to sail forever until doomsday. Heinrich Heine, the great German writer, romanticized the Flying Dutchman's story. Heine injected the element of redemption by allowing his captain to go ashore once every 7 years in order to try and regain his freedom by winning the hand of an unsullied maiden. Composer Richard Wagner took this version for his opera Der Fliegende Holländer. Wagner called his captain Van der Reken, and the maiden to whom he makes advances Senta. An apparition of a phantom derelict ship believed the Flying Dutchman was seen at the Cape in 1923. It was witnessed by 4 seamen, one of whom reported the incident years later to Sir Ernest Bennett, a member of the Society for Psychical Research. Bennett included the account in his book Apparitions in Haunted Houses, a Survey of the Evidence, published in 1934. According to the 4th officer N.K. Stone, the apparition was sighted about 15 minutes past midnight on January 26, 1923. Earlier in the day, the ship en route from Australia to London had left Cape Town. Stone later wrote the following: About 1:15 midnight we noticed a strange light on the port bow. It was a very dark night, overcast with no moon. We looked at this through binoculars and the ship's telescope and made out what appeared to be the hull of a sailing ship. Luminous with 2 distinct masts carrying bare yards, also luminous, no sails were visible, but there was a luminous haze between the masts. There were no navigation lights and she appeared to be coming close to us at the same speed as ourselves. When first sighted, she was about 2 to 3 miles away, and when she was about half a mile from us, she suddenly disappeared. There were 4 witnesses to this spectacle, the second officer, a cadet, the helmsman, and myself. I shall never forget the second officer startle's expression. My God, Stone, it's a ghost ship. Pirates who plied the seas in the 17th and 18th centuries are associated with phantom ship lore. In American lore, the ghost ship of Captain Kidd is said to sail up and down the New England coast as Kidd searches for his buried treasure. Pirate John Lafitte's ship is said to prowl the waters off Galveston, Texas, which is thought to be the area where the ship went down in the 1820s. The most haunted waterways in America are the Great Lakes, which have claimed numerous ships during violent winter storms. The Great Lakes are more dangerous than any ocean to navigate because of fast, rising, powerful storms that can sink a ship in minutes. One of the most famous lost ships of the Great Lakes is the Griffin, built at Niagara in New York. The Griffin, at 60 feet in length and 45 tons in weight, was the largest ship built to sail the lakes in her time. During construction, the workers were taunted by local Iroquois, who considered the ship an affront to the Great Spirit. The Iroquois prophet Metuame cursed the ship and said it would sink. The Griffin commenced her maiden voyage on August 7, 1679, and commenced her return voyage on September the 18th. It never arrived. No one knows what happened to it, but according to legend, it sailed through a crack in the ice and vanished. In 1900, a wreck believed to be that of the Griffin was discovered off Bruce Peninsula in Lake Huron. The identity of the wreck was announced in 1955 after historical evidence had been examined. However, others have disputed the claim, and the true identity of the wreck remains unconfirmed. Meanwhile, the ghost of the Griffin reportedly is still seen drifting about Lake Huron on some foggy nights. An unusual phantom ship appeared at New Haven, Connecticut in 1648, wrecking itself before a crowd of astonished witnesses. It was interpreted as a sign from God revealing the fate of the ship that had disappeared. The event was recorded in Cotton Mather's Ecclesiastical History of New England, Magnalia Christi Americana, as reported to him in a letter by the pastor of New Haven at the time, James Pierpont. According to the story, the merchants of New Haven, former Londoners, found themselves on hard times. They pooled the last of their resources to build a ship to send to England with goods. The ship was built in 1647 in Rhode Island. The master, a Mr. Lamberton, perhaps with a bit of precedence, commented that the ship would prove to be their grave. The ship set sail in January, bearing about 5 or 6 of New Haven's most prominent citizens among the passengers. It never reached England and presumably was lost at sea. For months, the citizens of New Haven anguished over the fate of the ship and prayed for the souls aboard. It is theorized that these apparitions are a form of consciousness that survives death and is capable of telepathically projecting images, including those of material objects to the living, which are then perceived as phantoms. If such were the case, then the Flying Dutchman and other apparitions are images projected telepathically by the ship's dead crew.